the point that I'm making right now is this idea that what they're saying needs to be happening ain't happening, okay? I got these young men saying, yeah, this is what I'm going to do when I get out. Well, I'm a business owner. I run a barber shop. It ain't no big deal, but at least I got some sense of business economics, right? This cat's been away and locked up and has that disconnect. He has access to information, but y'all know, everybody in here been incarcerated? Anybody in here not been incarcerated? It's okay. Don't be ashamed. It used to be a time when we'd ask that question, anybody been incarcerated? We was ashamed. And now we ask, anybody not been incarcerated? Well,
we used to tell people, if you ain't got a felony, you ain't got nothing coming.
You ain't got nothing coming. And the old head tell me, if you ain't been to jail, you ain't doing nothing. So anyway, the point is, so that a lot of these cats have been, when you're incarcerated, you don't have access to current info, right? Y'all know that. And so, although the ideas could be strong, if you don't have access to data in a world where Google exists, you kind of running with a weight on in this race that it's hard to catch up on. And so I realized that a lot of these guys had good intentions, but they didn't really have viable plans. Does that make sense? They weren't realistic. The idea that you just gonna come out here and start a business with a barbershop and a chicken diner and a laundromat in the back, it takes more than just a good idea, right? And so I got frustrated with that because I was like, who's telling you that? I was like, oh, my case manager at the joint. And I was like, they gave you that? Like, your case manager might not know what it takes to start and run a business. I'm jumping out on a limb here, but you're running a full enterprise over here right now, right? When you got started in this work, you probably didn't know, as you just said, you didn't know nothing about excavation, right? So it takes time to develop these skills. And what I committed to doing, I said, you know what, I'm going to do something about this. I approached a young program that was doing nonprofit work, doing fatherhood work. I went to Walmart. Walmart gives away $5,000 grants, community-based grants. Just an FYI for any business owners. All Walmarts in your community, rich or poor communities, they give away $5,000 grants in buckets. They give away a number of those grants annually. I found the woman in there, just a regular person, introduced myself, told her what I did, went in there, wrote a grant for this organization, and then I came and taught some entrepreneurial stuff. That was my entry into this work, okay? So when I ended up in Denver, Colorado, I had started doing that a little bit more, but now I'm with the Crime Prevention and Control Commission, a real systemized organization. It's not this type of volunteer type work, it's real structure. And somebody by the name of Lisa Calderon said she's going to give me a chance and hire me to do this job development work, right? Y'all with me? And creating employment opportunities for folks coming out of Denver County Jail. I did that for 4 years. That's how me and this brother met. That's how I got affiliated with this work. Well, what I got introduced to in this work was the system works one way. Reality is another way. I don't need a study to tell me what's going on, but sometimes they only listen to people with them letters behind their names, right? So I got to a point where I was like, you know what? I'm helping 100 folks find jobs and employment. When they leave our place, they go to a parole officer who's telling them something like that case manager was telling them that don't line up with reality, right? So what if I could go over here and work with 10 parole officers or 10 probation officers or 10 case managers who have a caseload of 100 folks? I have a bigger reach. And so I started doing that. And I started getting trained to train folks on the ideas that we were delivering in our one-on-one interactions. Now, here's where things got a little quirky. The more I did that, the more I started saying to myself, I need to put a plan together to get to a level to figure out how to get to this point where I can be legit doing this work. And the more training I got, the more opportunities open up, and then the state of Colorado Division of Criminal Justice called. She's shaking your head. Tell me why.
No, I just said something to him. My bad.
Oh, no. I wasn't trying to be into that. I thought you might have some feedback for me. Y'all pay attention, man. We ain't I'm messing with you. But I like interaction. That's why I was curious to know what you were asking. So anyway, my problem. So let me hit the pause button there. Step 7 is what? Who's read the 7 steps? What is step 7? It's okay.
Stop dreaming and start planning.
Stop dreaming and start what?
Planning.
So I told you there was a step before this Alabama and barbershop in the Denver County Jail. So in 2003, 2003 or 4, I was 6 years into an 8-year sentence in a federal facility in Alabama. Now, I got somebody's attention right there, didn't I?
Yes.
Any questions about that? Because I'm offering more details, but any questions about that? Y'all heard me. I was 6 years in of an 8-year sentence. No, actually, correction. I was 4 years in of an 8-year sentence. And so, in 2003, the psychologist at the federal institution I was at, because I was part of this African American Studies group, I committed to not just sitting around. In this time that I was serving for this conspiracy charge, this federal time, I was committed to not just sitting around and not letting this time go by. He brought to me 604 pages. It was a 604-page report of the United States Reentry Policy Council. In 2003, they had this policy group, almost like a think tank, of federal officials and a combination of state folks and community folks that came together and was saying what they later said in Denver, Colorado: we need to figure out a way to institutionalize reentry. And in this book was all their ideas. And he handed this to me and he said, Cash, this is a psychologist at the facility. He's an employee, he's a staff member, right? We were always told a lie, they ain't trying to help us. He gave me this book that he printed out on federal dollars and said, you might be interested in this. And I read through that book, and there was over a dozen key principles that they identified that they needed to establish in reentry. And I took, and I have it to this day, you know those legal pads. I took and I wrote notes on all that. And I committed right then that I was going to create an organization that was going to help folks find employment, education opportunities, and then I had a few other crazy ideas that I haven't manifested yet. Malcolm X once said the best way to, execute some of those plans is to keep them to yourself until they're ready. So I ain't gonna go there yet, but so when I got out of prison in 2006, and for those of y'all that are clocking the time, I didn't snitch to get out of that because I still had 4 years left. I actually won an appeal 4 years after the fact and got my time cut by 2 years.
We appreciate you clarifying.
Yeah, thank you. Because I ain't want nobody walking out of here going, y'all didn't catch what he said? He was 2004. He said he was 4 years in the sentence, then in 6 years he's in a barbershop? Nigga snitching. So, but with that, when I got out of my barbershop, I had this plan of ideas. Or shall I say, I had this book of ideas that I tried to convert into a plan. And then these ideas was, I wanted to get and start this organization that did this work. So I'm working the barbershop, set my money aside. Then all of a sudden, my wife and I looked up and said, we need to move to Denver, Colorado. And we moved here, I landed here, and it just so happened that while I'm concocting all these ideas, the soil is being tilled and this opportunity is being created. So when I got to Denver, I'm here. Now y'all can call that luck, chance, whatever. I live by one of the definitions that luck is when preparation meets opportunity. I used to tell guys all the time, you can sit around all day long. I used to believe my time was going to get cut because I had something in the courts. But there's a lot of folks that's sitting in jail right now and wasn't ready for the First Step Act when it came out and wishes that when that law got signed by Trump that they didn't have some of the disciplinaries they had in their jacket to get the benefits of that. I can guarantee you that right now. So preparation meeting the opportunity. So now if you understand that trajectory, you'll also understand that when coming back to it, when I went to the state, I did take that position at the state, and it was a position that allowed me to train parole officers, probation officers, corrections officials, corrections staff, halfway house owners. I spent 4 years at the state getting paid by the state to deliver that training. But no, thank you for that, but hear me on this. Anybody that knows, when you go to the State Division of Criminal Justice to apply for a job, the first thing it says is persons with convictions need not apply. So I must have lied on my education. I'm a snitch and a liar. I must have lied on my application, you say. But you may also know too that, y'all heard of Ban the Box?
Yep.
Colorado, the state of Colorado was one of the first organizations to ban the box or remove from the application that question, Tell me.
It's up on the ballot right now, or something. They're trying to get rid of it when you fill out an application.
And that's for private employers.
Yeah, it just passed the House.
It's
This
already
week.
Right?
progress.
I went
So-
down to the Capitol with the WOW program.
Uh-huh.
And we talked to the Senate and all them to try to round up off.
Kudos to you for
And
that.
also for the eviction notices, that they're trying to get that to go like
That is a big
14
deal.
days notice now
Yes.
instead of 3 days.
So you went and testified?
Excellent job. Y'all give her a round of applause. That's not a small feat. And one of the things that came out of that study in UC Berkeley was advocacy engagement, right? One of the best practices of folks being able to get and impact the system is folks who have been impacted by the system to start working at the advocacy level. And that's what you did. So kudos to you for that. Here's what you should know if you're looking for employment. The City and County of Denver will not ask you about your background if you apply for a job for them on the application. So it allows you to get your foot in the what?
Door.
I knew my skills was good enough to be able to get my foot, arm, and my booty in the door with the state. So I wasn't worried about that little line that said persons with convictions need not apply, because I knew that on the application it wasn't going to ask me, so I didn't have to lie. And then two, once I got in the interview, I hoped that my skill set, which I've been busting my ass to build since they sentenced me, y'all don't hear me. We ain't talking about, no, I did this, I did that, certificates and whatnot. That's all good, but do you have the tangible skills to back that? So I knew that I would be able to take my skill set and present it in a way that hopefully it would weigh heavier than some background or that demonstrated what behaviors I did in the past. Y'all with me? Well, they hired me. And they gave me what I was looking for. What I was trying to get when I was at that local position, when I was working with 100 folks incarcerated, they gave me 100 probation officers to work with. And now I went from working at that level to working at the systems level. Then I started thinking, well, if I'm doing this individually, what if I could do it independently? Because I had owned businesses, I knew. So in 2015, I started my own consulting firm. And the short version of all of this is, we just landed, over the last 3 years, this firm that I started up, this crazy dude that was incarcerated, I had this idea. We landed the 2 biggest Department of Justice contracts to help deliver training to 2 institutions, and I should say systems. Department of Corrections in the state of Alabama did a 2-year contract with the Department of Corrections in Alabama, a facility that I spent 2 years incarcerated in, by the way. And they never knew. If they knew, they probably wouldn't have hired me. And then we have an opportunity now. We just landed a contract. Thanks be to God that the company is able to deliver 6 training across 6 different institutions over the course of a year starting next month. So you talked about policy and systems change. So getting back to those 4 pieces in Berkeley, all right? A couple of other those pieces say we need folks during this critical time, that there's a critical time when you get released from prison to getting on your feet, that folks are really, really motivated. Can anybody attest to that?
Yeah.
Like getting out, we're motivated, right? I don't know about y'all, but my day of release, I was like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And there's the same motivation that them cats sitting in my barber chair had. But again, there's a disparity or a dissonance or sometimes a disconnect between that motivation and reality. And sometimes we bump into a few brick walls and that motivation starts going like this. And so as the point was made, the other piece that the students at UC Berkeley came up with in their research is we also got to have support systems in place. Like we need to be able to have folks invest in us during that critical time period to keep us motivated, to keep money in our pocket legitimately, and to keep a roof over our head. And they call that continuity of services.
They got a name for everything.
Right? But that's what you're getting in here. What type of services do y'all get in here? Let's rattle them off. At SCC, what type of service? Employment and job training. What else?
Mentor.
Housing referrals. What?
Mentor.
Mentor. Clothing assistance. What else?
Therapy.
Food.
Transportation.
Transportation assistance. What else? I'm here. There's a few I know that y'all getting that I'm not hearing, and it's not always directly. What else?
Medical. Mental health.
Mental health.
Boom. Transportation. Boom. Let me pause for 1 second. Healthcare and mental health care are 2 critical factors for success. And I'm here to tell you, 65% of the folks incarcerated have an undiagnosed mental health condition. That means if somebody else ain't telling me about my stuff, and I ain't willing to acknowledge or talk about my stuff, guess what? My stuff goes unattended to. And usually, an issue that goes unattended to gets bigger or smaller. Y'all, we come from the same place, man. Because that's what happens with all my issues. They get bigger. Don't downplay the mental health, your physical health, your emotional health, your financial health. Any blank health has value. Own that. Take advantage of those services because it's one of those critical factors that are highlighted. But here's the last point I want to make. Everything that they did over there at UC Berkeley, y'all already know. Who's the biggest case manager in your lives?
We are.
Who's the biggest job developer in your lives? Who's the biggest motivator in your lives?
We are.
Y'all got to understand this. The system only works for you if you know how to work the system. I'm here to tell you. And I'm telling you this as somebody who laid on a cot for 6.5 years and was a product and a benefactor of that system to somebody who now helps inform that system around the policy changes that they make. Listen to me closely when I tell you I'm not bragging. I'm saying I'm blessed to be in a position to effectuate the type of change that these contracts have afforded me. I have wardens on speed dial, literally. And the crazy, it's not just having on speed dial, they listen to me. They crazy enough to listen to me. Y'all follow what I'm saying? And the shoes that I wear, the position that you might see I'm standing in, I'm expecting greatness out of folks. Like this is play compared to what people can do with access to information and resources.
Are you going to give us that information?
Which one?
All of it.
I just did.
Well, I mean, like, is it just you have just like with Second Chance and other places, or is there a way we can? Because I'm 50 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I got out of the joint in '98, and I was clean and sober for 20 years.
Right.
And I went through some tragedy and stuff.
Yeah.
And same thing with you. I started my own business. I didn't even really learn how to read until I was in prison.
Right.
And when I got out, I got certified in Microsoft, this, that, and the other. I started a very successful business.
Right.
And like you, I was taking care of this town, and it was one of my clients, and they had a new police officer or new chief of police come in. Well, he was my parole officer. And when he seen me, he says, I know you from somewhere. I was like, no, you don't know me. I recognize him right away. You know, and I was like you. I was like, yeah, you don't know me. Just a familiar face, right?
Wait.
And
Well, hold on. I didn't say no, you don't know me, but I understand where you're coming
Well,
from.
I knew what was going to happen. Right? I was taking care of the police department's security and
Okay, you were
networks.
afraid that your contract was going to get canceled.
Yeah, so he figured it out a couple months later, and of course I lost the contract for the whole
Okay.
city.
Right.
And then I had some problems, and I relapsed, and now I'm back in the system again.
Let me pause for a second, and I want to talk details to you, but cut to your question because I want to.
I want to get back into my line of work. I'm good
Yeah.
at what I do as far as, but I can't even get a job washing freaking dishes
I
right
hear you,
now.
brother.
Dude.
So let's hit the pause button right there. What's your name, by the way?
Troy.
So just for time's sake, Troy, we should check in after this and just talk one-on-one about this, and I'm happy to share my content. We can even expand on it. Let me clarify a couple of things. One is, when I said that those folks don't know who I am, I made a conscious choice not to disclose that. And I'm not trying to deceive, nor am I trying to lie about that. If I'm confronted with it, I bring it up. But here's what I do know. There's a huge stigma associated with being formerly incarcerated. True or false? And we know that stigma is not always on us. Sometimes it's on the part of the general public, right? Like, it's one thing if you say, that dude's a problem because I'm out here demonstrating I'm a problem. That's not a stigma, that's facts. Hashtag facts. It's another thing if I paid my dues and I'm demonstrating something else and that stigma's still there. Well, what I found in my experience is, a lot of times, more often than not, when I'm doing my part, that's on them. Now, I try not to create a stumbling block or to put things in people's way that further exacerbates or makes that stigma worse. But the challenge there is it forces me always to reevaluate how I see myself. So hear me on this. And I want to just say this quickly and then I'm going to wrap up. We've got to figure out a way to fight this balance between Here's what we know our behaviors look like, and here's who we know we are. Because too often, the what we did stuff, sometimes, right? It takes precedence in our own minds. And if that's happening for us, man, it's like walking around in funk. Everybody else notices it. And it bleeds off us. And it don't matter how clean I dress, how much scrubbing I do, how much cologne I put on, how clean my business cards are, or how strong my resume is. That funk will overshadow that. That funk of shame will overshadow that. And if you go through the 7 steps, the last step is dream what? Stop dreaming and plan. The key there, as I interpret that, is we got to get rid of all this other funk stuff before we can even plan, because what goes into the plan is the same funk that created the problem in the first place. This idea that we can't solve a problem with the same mindset that created it is real. Tell me your name one more time.
Troy.
Troy. If I'm wrong, let's talk about this. I'm not making an assumption or directing this at you. But be real clear. My experience has been that those circumstances are oftentimes created by my own shit. I can't have a solid, viable, long-term plan that can be sustained and successful if I don't clean up my act before even putting the plan together. And too often, we spend a lot of time planning while we still doing the bullshit that got us in that situation that we're trying to plan our way out. Pump the brakes on the plan and let's get our shit together. And then work on the plan. The 6 steps is about getting our shit together. Am I right? Y'all hear me? The reason that psychiatrist didn't come to me, I'm trying to think of the statute of limitations right now to make sure I don't self-incriminate, because you can't.
We do some hella editing, don't we?
Let me generalize this. The reason that psychiatrist didn't come to me with that 600 and something pages before then, because I wasn't ready. Y'all hear me? I had a lot of crap going on in the first 2 years of my bid in the state facility. And then I thought I was going to get out, and ended up the feds showed up going, no, you ain't going nowhere. We got something waiting on you too. And so I had another set of time to serve. And that's when I finally said, I'm going to stop bull-assing myself. So Troy, when I say that, I hope that resonates with you. And brother, again, this isn't an answer. This is just an idea. Any plan we put together needs to be foolproof from our foolishness. And keep in mind this too. That thing I was putting together laying up in that cot, it wasn't perfect by any means. The intent was there, but I still had to progress and get the information and access. So there's a solution to that. And again, we could talk about specifics there, but generally, you feel where I'm coming from?
I do. I'd love to talk to you, man.
Okay, man. I appreciate that feedback, because it's always a stretch. I don't have all the answers. That was another reason I said, let me go work with these parole officers, because, man, there's too many situations coming, right? Everybody's got a unique and different situation, and there is not one sole solution for all of them. Take what's meant for you and let the rest of what I'm saying go if it don't apply. That's what I'm here to tell you. And the same thing for any one of these brothers. Take what's meant for you, because what you look up here and say, no, that don't fit me, might fit the woman or the man sitting next to you. Y'all feel me?
Yep.
Stop dreaming. And what?
Start planning.
But before you plan, make sure we've got those other things in order, man. Because we can't solve a problem with the same mindset that created it. I'm open for questions, but I want to defer to the... Are there any questions for me directly? Because I'm happy to chat after this with Troy. We're already going to touch
We're gonna take a break in a second. This is usually about the time before.
Okay.
But let me get before you go. There was about six maybe it was 6 years or so ago, almost 6 years. Secretary Center was still in my car, and I took a meeting with this brother at a little coffee shop downtown Denver, and he was very generous with me in that time. And he seemed a little reserved because he had a lot of advices for me, but he wasn't too sure, it seemed to me, how receptive I would be to somebody advising me how to move. But I'm still that guy that's looking for additional ideas, that's looking for somebody else's vantage point, because I don't know everything I need to know. That's one thing I do know. I'm always open to being taught, to learn, to expand myself. So I appreciate everything that you told me back then 6 years ago, brother, the advice you gave me. And I don't know if you think I'm following some of it.
I see the manifestation of your work.
Okay, all
I see
right.
the manifestation.
So I'm just saying, you know, we got all these elements of people just like us, been there, done that. That's out here now trying to change how this thing is done, period. And it can happen. It's happening. It ain't like it can happen.
Right.
It's huh? Yeah, it's happening. I got stopped speeding on the Canyon City compound a minute ago. Seriously. I was trying to get from Fremont to Arrowhead, and I left with the little buzzer they give you. They give you a little buzzer now, in case cats don't like what I say and bum rush me. I can hit the button and they'll save me. Okay? I wish I had that back in the day. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't have had to go to the bathroom and the shower too many times. But anyway, I'm speeding to this other place because when I got there, I still had the button. So I ran back. I'm running back to give them the button back so I can make this other session. And the guy put the lights on me. Woo, woo, woo. Damn. So I pull over, and when the police pull up on me, this is right where Skyline is, y'all. Some of y'all know. I can't believe they got the lights on me.
Right.
So when he pulls up, I said, "How you doing, officer?" He said, "Morning, Mr. Lateef." Man, knew my name. He said, "Do you have any idea what the speed limit is on this compound, sir?" I said, "Well, I saw the sign said 30, but I thought that was more like a suggestion." He said, "No, sir, we got work crews out here. We're pretty serious about that." You know, so I told him why I was rushing, and he gave me a pass. So I'm just saying, you know, I'm one of those that get those tickets out here too.
Yeah.
But things are so different, y'all. There'd have been a time when somebody would have taken advantage of me making that mistake, that error in judgment, to smash me, take my little old credential or whatever, and walk me off the compound.
Right.
You know, we get a benefit of the doubt sometimes when we've established ourselves as doing things differently. You know, and you weren't here when I told them before. Reiterate what we talk about all the time. The better they do, the better we're gonna be able to do.
Right.
This is a fact. I appreciate you disclosing, brother. I didn't want to tell them.
No. And I appreciate the opportunity to control my narrative.
No, I appreciate you being here.